You are exhausted. Exhausted from explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. You keep trying to make them see reason, to make them acknowledge your truth, to make them validate your reality. And every single time, you walk away feeling drained, frustrated, and somehow smaller than when you started. I am Solomon, and I have watched empires rise and fall on this very principle. The wisest among us learn early that there are two types of people in this world: those who seek truth and those who seek comfort in their illusions. You have been wasting your precious life force on the latter. Picture this. You are standing in a room full of mirrors, but instead of seeing yourself clearly, you are desperately trying to explain your reflection to people wearing blindfolds. They argue with you about what they cannot see, twist your words into shapes that fit their predetermined beliefs, and demand endless proof of what stands right before them. This is your life right now. This is what you have accepted as normal. But what if I told you that the richest, most powerful people throughout history shared one devastating secret? They stopped explaining themselves to people trapped in illusion. They discovered that silence is not weakness. Silence is the ultimate power move of someone who knows their own worth. Today, you are going to learn the ancient art of strategic silence. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of kings. Not the silence of those who cannot speak, but the silence of those who choose not to waste their words on deaf ears. You are about to transform from someone who begs for understanding to someone who commands respect simply by refusing to participate in meaningless battles. This is not another feel-good motivation speech. This is a fundamental rewiring of how you see yourself and how you interact with the world. You are about to become the person who walks away with their dignity intact, while others scramble to make sense of your newfound power. If you are ready to stop being a prisoner to other people's need for drama and chaos, if you are ready to reclaim the energy you have been hemorrhaging into bottomless pits of ignorance, then this channel is about to become your greatest ally in that transformation. Subscribe now, because what you are about to discover will change how you show up in every relationship, every conversation, and every conflict for the rest of your life. Number 1, the difficulty of being understood. You have spent countless nights lying awake, replaying conversations in your mind. Conversations where you spoke clearly, chose your words carefully, and yet somehow walked away feeling more misunderstood than before you opened your mouth. You have felt the crushing weight of being heard but not listened to, of being seen but not recognized for who you truly are. This is the silent agony of the awakened soul trying to communicate with minds still trapped in their own limited reality. I am Solomon, and I have witnessed this tragedy play out across millennia. The wise have always struggled to convey truth to those who prefer comfortable lies. You are living proof that intelligence and clarity of expression mean nothing when faced with someone who has already decided what you mean before you speak. This is not your failure. This is the natural consequence of consciousness levels that exist in completely different dimensions. Imagine two people sitting side by side in a movie theater, but they are watching entirely different films. One sees a love story unfolding, filled with hope and redemption. The other sees a horror movie, dark and threatening at every turn. They try to discuss what they are witnessing, but their realities are so fundamentally different that every attempt at shared understanding becomes an argument about what is actually happening on the screen. This is your life when you try to explain yourself to people trapped in their own interpretations of reality. You offer them your perspective with genuine intention, but they filter everything through their preformed assumptions, their past wounds, their fears about what your words might mean for their carefully constructed worldview. Your explanations become noise in their mental wind tunnel, where the sound of their own thoughts drowns out any possibility of genuine listening. They hear your voice, but they receive only echoes of their own expectations. There was once a merchant in my kingdom who spent his entire fortune trying to convince his competitors that cooperation would bring greater wealth to all. He presented detailed plans, shared his successful strategies, and offered partnership after partnership. But his competitors saw only threat in his generosity, deception in his transparency, and weakness in his willingness to share. They took his openness as proof of hidden agendas, his wisdom as manipulation, and his genuine desire for mutual success as elaborate trickery. The merchant died poor, not because his ideas were wrong, but because he exhausted himself trying to plant seeds in soil that had already been poisoned against growth. Here is the moment your life changes forever. You must understand that communication is not about the clarity of your words or the purity of your intentions. Communication is about the receptivity of the listener. You cannot force understanding into a mind that has chosen to remain closed. You cannot illuminate a person who has deliberately turned away from the light. The quality of your explanations has never been the problem. The problem is your belief that explanation can bridge the gap between willingness and unwillingness to understand. Stop measuring your worth by how well others grasp your meaning. Start measuring your wisdom by how quickly you recognize when further explanation is futile. Preserve your energy for those who approach you with genuine curiosity rather than predetermined conclusions. Invest your words in relationships where they can take root and flourish, not where they will be twisted into weapons against your own peace. The path to true freedom begins when you realize that being misunderstood by the right people is infinitely more valuable than being applauded by the wrong ones. Number 2, the illusion of communication with those who don't want to listen. You have believed the great lie of our age that communication solves everything. You have been told that if you just find the right words, the perfect explanation, the most compelling argument, you can reach anyone. So you keep trying, keep refining your approach, keep hoping that this time they will finally hear you. Meanwhile, your words are being transformed into something unrecognizable the moment they leave your lips, twisted into shapes that fit their existing narrative about who you are and what you represent. The truth I learned from ruling over the wisest and most foolish of men is this: some people do not listen to understand. They listen to reconstruct your words into a form that validates their preconceptions. They are not participating in communication. They are engaging in projection. Every sentence you speak becomes raw material for the story they have already written about you in their minds. Picture a hall of funhouse mirrors where every reflection is distorted beyond recognition. You stand in the center, showing your true form, but every surface reflects back a warped version of reality. Some mirrors make you appear threatening when you are peaceful. Others make you look weak when you are strong. Still others transform your generosity into manipulation. The people around you are not looking at you directly. They are staring only at these distorted reflections and insisting that the warped images are the real you. This is what happens when you try to communicate with those who have chosen not to truly listen. These individuals have become experts at villainization. They hear your words through a filter of suspicion and fear, automatically translating anything that challenges their worldview into an attack on their identity. They create enemies where none exist because conflict is easier than the vulnerability required for genuine understanding. They would rather fight against a caricature of you than risk discovering that their assumptions might be wrong. I once observed a situation in my court where a woman accused a man of arrogance simply because his confidence threatened her belief that she was supposed to be the smartest person in the room. No matter how humbly he presented his ideas, she heard only condescension. No matter how respectfully he disagreed with her positions, she interpreted it as personal attack. She was not responding to his actual words or behavior. She was defending against the threat his very existence posed to her self-image. The man could have spent years trying to prove his good intentions, but he would have been arguing against a phantom enemy that existed only in her mind. This is where your transformation must begin. You must recognize that some people reject truth not because they cannot see it, but because accepting it would require them to rebuild their entire understanding of themselves and their world. They are not seeking your perspective. They are protecting their illusions. Your attempts to enlighten them only provide more material for their defense mechanisms to work with. Every explanation you offer gives them another opportunity to demonstrate how misunderstood and persecuted they are. The practice of wisdom begins with this recognition. Stop trying to convince people who have already decided not to be convinced. Stop explaining yourself to those who profit from misunderstanding you. Your clarity becomes complicity in their delusion when you continue to engage with someone who consistently twists your words. True communication requires two willing participants, not one person speaking and another person waiting for ammunition to fire back. Number 3, the emotional cost of constant explanation. Your soul is hemorrhaging energy, and you may not even realize it. Every time you launch into another explanation, another defense of your character, another attempt to set the record straight, you are bleeding life force into a void that can never be filled. You have been treating symptoms instead of the disease, trying to cure misunderstanding with more words when the problem was never a lack of information. I have watched empires crumble under the weight of leaders who exhausted themselves trying to justify their every decision to people who were determined to find fault regardless of the wisdom behind those choices. The cost of constant explanation is not just time and energy, it is the gradual erosion of your sense of self. When you spend your days defending your reality to people who have already decided it is wrong, you begin to question your own perceptions. You start to wonder if maybe they are right. Maybe you are the problem. Maybe you really are as difficult or selfish or delusional as they claim. Think of a mighty river that has been dammed and redirected into 1,000 small channels, each flowing toward land that cannot absorb the water. The river's power becomes scattered and ineffective, its force dissipated across terrain that remains unchanged despite the constant flow. This is what happens to your spirit when you continuously pour your explanations into minds that have no capacity to receive them. Your natural strength becomes weakness, your clarity becomes confusion, and your peace becomes chaos. There is a deeper tragedy here that few recognize. Every time you explain yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, you participate in preserving their illusion. Your words give them something to push against. Your defenses provide evidence for their accusations. Your attempts at clarification become proof of your guilt in their distorted narrative. You become complicit in your own character assassination, simply by engaging with the process. I remember a wise teacher in ancient times who refused to argue with his critics. When they demanded explanations for his methods, he simply continued his work. When they accused him of arrogance for his silence, he smiled and carried on. His students asked why he did not defend himself against such obvious lies. He replied that a clear pool of water needs no defense against the mud thrown by those standing on the shore. The water will either be muddied if it engages with the dirt, or remain clear if it simply continues to flow. The choice belongs to the water, not to those throwing mud. This is your moment of awakening. You must understand that the exhaustion you feel after these conversations is not just fatigue. It is your inner wisdom screaming at you to stop. Your body is responding to a spiritual violence, the violence of having your truth repeatedly attacked and distorted. Your nervous system knows what your mind refuses to accept. This dynamic is toxic and must end. The practice that will transform your life begins now. Before you open your mouth to explain yourself, ask this question: is this person genuinely seeking to understand me, or are they looking for material to use against me? If the answer is the latter, your silence is not just appropriate, it is necessary for your spiritual survival. When you stop feeding the beast of endless explanation, you stop participating in your own emotional destruction. Number 4. The blue sky and neighbor metaphor. You know this story because you have lived it in countless variations. A man looks up at a crystal-clear afternoon sky and sees brilliant blue stretching from horizon to horizon. His neighbor insists the sky is green. The man brings photographs, calls other witnesses, even provides scientific explanations about light wavelengths and atmospheric refraction. The neighbor dismisses every piece of evidence, becomes increasingly agitated, and accuses the man of trying to manipulate and control him with his so-called facts. What happens next reveals the true nature of human psychology. The man, exhausted by the futility of the exchange, simply stops arguing. He no longer tries to convince his neighbor that the sky is blue. And this is when something fascinating and terrible occurs. The neighbor becomes furious not at the man, but at his own loss of someone to argue with. Without resistance to push against, the neighbor must confront the uncomfortable possibility that he might actually be wrong about the sky's color. I have observed this pattern throughout my reign over the hearts and minds of men. People who live in deliberate delusion require opposition to maintain their false beliefs. They need someone to argue with, someone to resist, someone to blame for their confusion. When you stop providing that resistance, when you refuse to play your assigned role in their drama, they experience a crisis that forces them back into relationship with reality. The neighbor's anger was never really about the color of the sky. His rage was about having to face the terror of being wrong about something so fundamental, so obvious, so basic to shared reality. Your presence as someone willing to argue gave him the luxury of avoiding this confrontation with truth. Your silence strips away that luxury and forces him to stand alone with his delusion. There was a merchant in my kingdom who sold the finest silk in all the land. A competitor spread rumors that the silk was actually cheap cotton dyed to look expensive. The merchant spent months bringing customers to feel the fabric, showing them the silk worms, explaining the intricate process of production. But the rumors persisted because people enjoy drama more than truth. Finally, the merchant stopped defending his product altogether. He simply continued creating beautiful silk and serving those who appreciated quality. Within a year, the truth became undeniable to everyone except the competitor, who had built his entire reputation on the lie. The competitor's business failed not because the merchant fought back, but because silence allowed reality to speak louder than words. This is the moment you must choose your path forward. You can continue exhausting yourself trying to convince people that obvious truths are true, or you can step back and allow their relationship with reality to unfold naturally. Most people know the truth, they simply prefer the comfort of their chosen ignorance. Your arguments provide them cover for that choice. Your silence removes the cover. The revolutionary act is recognizing that some people's resistance to truth is not a problem for you to solve. Their willingness to argue about the color of a clear blue sky reveals everything you need to know about the futility of trying to convince them of anything else. When you withdraw from these pointless battles, you create space for truth to do its work without interference. Stop giving people the gift of your opposition when they clearly prefer their delusions to your clarity. Number 5. The dynamic of constant explanation. You have become an actor in a play you never auditioned for, speaking lines you never wrote, playing a character that bears no resemblance to who you actually are. Every day you step onto the stage of other people's expectations and perform the exhausting role of someone who must justify their existence, their choices, their very right to be who they are. You have confused participation with necessity, believing that if someone demands an explanation, you are obligated to provide one. The terrible truth I discovered in my years of ruling is that the people who demand the most explanations are the least likely to accept any explanation you provide. They are not seeking understanding, they are seeking engagement. They are not trying to resolve confusion, they are trying to create drama. Your willingness to explain yourself becomes the fuel that feeds their need for conflict and chaos. Consider the puppet master who controls marionettes with invisible strings. The puppets dance and gesture and seem to have independent movement, but every action is determined by the will of the master pulling the strings. When you constantly explain yourself to people who have no genuine interest in understanding you, you become the puppet, and their questions become the strings. They control your emotional state, your time, your energy, and your peace of mind simply by demanding that you defend yourself. But here is what the puppet never realizes. The strings only have power if the puppet remains attached to them. The moment you stop responding to the pull, the moment you refuse to dance to their demands for explanation, the strings become powerless. The puppet master can pull all they want, but without your participation, there is no show. I once knew a woman who spent every conversation defending choices she had made years earlier. Her family had decided she was selfish for pursuing her own dreams instead of fulfilling their expectations, and she had accepted the role of permanent defendant in their court of judgment. Every family gathering became a trial where she was expected to justify her life, her career, her relationships, her decisions about children, marriage, money, and time. She performed this exhausting ritual for decades until one day she simply said, "I am no longer interested in defending my life to people who have already decided I am wrong." The family was shocked, outraged, and eventually forced to find new sources of drama when she refused to play her part. This is your liberation moment. You must understand that explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you is not communication. It is participation in your own persecution. Every time you provide reasons for your choices to someone who has already decided your choices are wrong, you give them new ammunition to use against you. Every time you defend your character to someone who profits from attacking it, you feed the beast that is devouring your peace. The practice that will free you from this prison is elegant in its simplicity. Stop explaining yourself to people who ask questions they do not want answered. Stop defending choices to people who have no genuine concern for your well-being. Stop providing reasons to people who will twist those reasons into evidence of your inadequacy. When someone demands an explanation from you, ask yourself, are they seeking to understand me better, or are they seeking to understand me less? Are they trying to build connection, or are they trying to build a case against me? Your answer will tell you everything you need to know about whether your words will be received as gifts or used as weapons. The moment you stop participating in other people's drama about your life is the moment you reclaim the power that was always yours. Number 6. Manipulative behavior in discussions. You have encountered them more times than you care to remember. The people who transform every conversation into a courtroom where they are the judge, jury, and prosecutor, and you are always the defendant. They possess an almost supernatural ability to twist your words into meanings you never intended, to find guilt in your innocence, and to interpret your silence as confession. These masters of manipulation do not engage in discussion. They engage in psychological warfare disguised as conversation. In my years of dealing with the most cunning minds in my kingdom, I learned to recognize the telltale signs of those who manipulate through the pretense of seeking understanding. They ask questions not to learn your perspective, but to gather ammunition against you. They listen not to comprehend your position, but to find weaknesses they can exploit. They remember not your kindnesses and wisdom, but only the moments when you appeared vulnerable or uncertain. Picture a skilled magician performing sleight of hand. They direct your attention to one hand while the other executes the real trick. Manipulative people do the same thing with conversations. They focus your attention on the apparent reasonableness of their questions, while their true intention is to trap you in contradictions, force you into defensive positions, or exhaust you into submission. They are not seeking truth, they are seeking control. They do not want clarity, they want victory. These individuals have discovered that your desire to be understood can be weaponized against you. They know that reasonable people will attempt to explain themselves when accused of unreasonableness. They understand that kind people will try to clarify their intentions when those intentions are questioned. They exploit your good nature by creating situations where your natural responses become evidence of whatever crime they have decided you have committed. There was a merchant in my court who was known for his fair dealings and generous heart. A competitor began spreading subtle rumors about his business practices, asking seemingly innocent questions about his pricing, his suppliers, his treatment of employees. Each time the merchant attempted to explain and defend his practices, the competitor would find some small detail to question further, some minor inconsistency to highlight, some aspect of his explanation to reframe as suspicious. The merchant became so consumed with defending his reputation that he neglected his actual business. Only when he finally stopped engaging with the accusations did he realize that the competitor's goal had never been to understand the truth about his business practices. The goal had been to distract him from success, while appearing to be a concerned member of the community seeking clarity. Here is the moment of recognition that will change everything for you. These people are not confused about who you are or what you stand for. They see your truth clearly, and that truth threatens them in some way. Your competence makes them feel incompetent. Your peace makes them aware of their chaos. Your authenticity highlights their pretense. Your success reminds them of their failures. Rather than deal with these uncomfortable feelings directly, they choose to attack the source of their discomfort by trying to make you doubt yourself. The liberating truth is this: when you stop explaining yourself to people who profit from misunderstanding you, you remove their power over your emotional state. When you refuse to participate in conversations designed to trap you, you expose the manipulative intent behind their questions. When you meet their demands for explanation with silence, you force them to confront the emptiness of their accusations without the benefit of your defensive responses to twist and distort. The most powerful response to manipulation disguised as concern is the refusal to be manipulated, and the clearest sign of that refusal is your unwillingness to play the game they have designed for your destruction. Number 7, the power of silence. There is a force in this universe more potent than all the words ever spoken, more persuasive than the most eloquent argument, more revealing than the most detailed explanation. It is the power of silence, and it belongs to those who have learned that sometimes the most profound communication happens when no words are exchanged at all. You have been taught to fear silence, to fill every pause with explanation, to treat quietness as emptiness that must be filled. This teaching has robbed you of one of your greatest sources of strength. I learned the true power of silence not from books or teachers, but from observing the natural world that surrounded my kingdom. The mountains do not explain their majesty, yet they command respect. The ocean does not justify its depths, yet it inspires awe. The sun does not defend its right to shine, yet all life depends on its light. The most powerful forces in creation operate in silence, letting their presence speak louder than any words ever could. When you choose silence in response to those who demand endless explanations, you are not retreating from power, you are stepping into it. You are refusing to diminish yourself by participating in conversations designed to diminish you. You are declining to waste your energy on people who have proven they will misuse whatever you offer them. You are choosing to preserve your strength for purposes that actually matter. Silence creates a vacuum that forces truth to rush in and fill the space. When you stop providing explanations for people to twist, stop offering defenses for them to attack, stop giving reasons for them to reject, something remarkable happens. The focus shifts from your words to your presence, from your arguments to your character, from your defenses to your dignity. People are forced to confront the actual person standing before them rather than the caricature they have created from your explanations. I remember a wise woman who served in my court, known throughout the land for her ability to resolve the most complex disputes. She rarely spoke during the heated arguments that came before her, never interrupted the passionate speeches of those seeking her judgment, never defended herself against accusations about her methods or motives. Instead, she listened with complete attention, watched with perfect presence, and remained still as stone until the arguing parties had exhausted themselves with their words. Only then would she speak, and her words carried the weight of mountains because they arose from genuine understanding rather than reactive defense. Her silence had allowed the truth of each situation to reveal itself naturally, without the distortion that comes from premature explanation. This is the transformation available to you right now. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects back to others the quality of their own hearts. Those who approach you with genuine respect and curiosity will interpret your quietness as depth and will wait patiently for you to share what you choose to share. Those who approach you with manipulation and ill intent will interpret your silence as resistance to their control and will reveal their true nature through their frustrated responses to your refusal to play their games. The practice of powerful silence begins with this understanding. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your existence, your choices, your boundaries, or your peace. When someone demands that you justify yourself, you have the absolute right to remain beautifully, powerfully, transformatively silent. Your silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything that matters. Self-respect, inner authority, and the unshakable knowledge that your worth does not depend on anyone else's understanding or approval. Number 8, what silence is not. You have been programmed to believe that silence is surrender, that quietness is weakness, that refusing to explain yourself is the same as giving up on all communication. These beliefs have been planted in your mind by people who profit from your willingness to engage in endless, fruitless discussions. They need you to believe that silence is abandonment, so that you will continue feeding their need for drama and conflict. But I am here to shatter these illusions and show you what silence truly is and is not. Silence is not the death of communication. It is the birth of authentic interaction. When you stop wasting your words on people who have proven they will misuse them, you preserve those words for relationships where they can actually create understanding, connection, and growth. Silence is not about refusing to communicate with anyone. It is about refusing to communicate with people who have demonstrated they are not truly listening. Think of a master archer who has been given a limited number of arrows. Would this archer shoot randomly into the forest, hoping to hit something valuable, or would they carefully choose their targets and aim with precision? Your words are arrows, your energy is your bow, and your time is the opportunity to hit targets that matter. Silence is the discipline of the master archer who refuses to waste shots on targets that cannot be hit. Silence is not punishment, though it may feel like punishment to those who have grown accustomed to having unlimited access to your explanations. When a parent stops arguing with a teenager about obvious household rules, this is not punishment of the teenager. It is preservation of the parent's sanity and authority. When a teacher stops trying to convince a disruptive student that education is valuable, this is not abandonment of the student. It is recognition that learning can only happen when the student chooses to engage genuinely. There was a king in ancient times who had a court jester that delighted in creating chaos through misrepresenting the king's words and intentions to various courtiers. The king spent months trying to correct these misrepresentations, explaining his actual positions, clarifying his statements, and defending his character against the jester's distortions. But every explanation only gave the jester more material to work with. Finally, the king simply stopped responding to the jester's provocations altogether. The jester, deprived of the king's reactions, eventually grew bored with the game and moved on to other sources of entertainment. The king had not punished the jester. He had simply stopped participating in a dynamic that served no constructive purpose. This is the crucial distinction you must understand. Silence is not about hurting anyone or teaching anyone a lesson. Silence is about honoring yourself enough to stop participating in interactions that harm your spirit and waste your life force. It is about recognizing that some conversations are designed not to reach resolution, but to perpetuate confusion, not to build understanding, but to maintain conflict. The practice of wise silence requires you to distinguish between productive communication and toxic engagement. Productive communication involves people who listen to understand rather than to argue, who ask questions to gain insight rather than to find ammunition, who engage with your ideas rather than attacking your character. Toxic engagement involves people who twist your words, who argue against positions you never took, who use your honesty as a weapon against your peace. When you choose silence with toxic people, you are not being cruel or cold or impossible to communicate with. You are being discerning. You are being wise. You are being protective of something precious. Your energy, your peace, and your capacity for genuine connection with those who deserve it. Silence is not the absence of love. It is the presence of self-love. It is not the rejection of relationship. It is the insistence on relationships that honor your humanity rather than exploit your desire to be understood. Number 9. Resistance to truth and free will. The most painful lesson I learned in all my years of accumulating wisdom is that some people do not want to be free from their illusions. They cling to their distorted perceptions not because they cannot see the truth, but because the truth threatens to collapse the entire identity they have built around being misunderstood, victimized, or righteously indignant. Their resistance to reality is not ignorance, it is choice, and this choice must be respected even as it breaks your heart to witness. You have been operating under the assumption that truth is universally desired, that everyone secretly wants to see clearly, think accurately, and live authentically. This assumption has led you to spend enormous amounts of energy trying to help people escape from mental prisons that they have carefully constructed and deliberately chosen to remain within. You have been trying to free people who do not want to be free, to enlighten people who prefer darkness, to heal people who have made their wounds into their identity. Imagine a person who has lived their entire adult life in a small, dark room. They have arranged their furniture to fit the space, developed routines that work within the limitations, and created stories about why the outside world is dangerous and impossible to navigate. One day, someone opens the door and shows them a vast, beautiful landscape filled with possibilities they never imagined. But instead of stepping outside, the person becomes angry at the one who opened the door. They accuse them of trying to disrupt their peace, of being insensitive to their needs, of trying to force unwanted change upon them. They slam the door shut and spend the rest of their life defending their choice to remain in darkness. This is not a story about ignorance or lack of awareness. This is a story about free will and the terrifying responsibility that comes with genuine freedom. Some people have built their entire sense of self around being trapped, limited, misunderstood, or victimized by circumstances beyond their control. The truth that they actually have the power to change their situation, to choose different thoughts, to create different outcomes, is not liberating to them. It is threatening. It means they would have to take responsibility for their lives, instead of blaming others for their unhappiness. I once encountered a merchant who complained bitterly about his poverty, while refusing every opportunity to learn new skills, explore different markets, or partner with successful traders. When I offered him access to resources that could transform his circumstances, he became hostile and accused me of trying to make him feel bad about his situation. He preferred the familiar pain of limitation to the unfamiliar challenge of growth. His poverty was not just his circumstance, it had become his identity. And my offer of help threatened to take away the very thing he used to explain and excuse every other aspect of his life that he was unwilling to change. This is the moment of liberation for you. You must accept that your truth, no matter how clearly presented, no matter how obviously beneficial, no matter how lovingly offered, will be rejected by people who have chosen to live in opposition to truth. This rejection is not about the quality of your message or the purity of your intentions. It is about their commitment to maintaining illusions that serve some psychological function you may never understand. The practice that will free you from the exhaustion of trying to convince the unconvincible is simple but profound. Give people the right to be wrong. Give them the right to choose suffering over growth, confusion over clarity, drama over peace. Give them the right to reject your wisdom, misinterpret your kindness, and remain trapped in stories that make no sense to you but somehow serve their needs. And give yourself the right to walk away from people who have chosen to live in ways that drain your energy without contributing anything meaningful to your growth or theirs. You cannot save people from choices they continue to make. You can only save yourself from the futile attempt to change minds that have decided not to change. Respect their free will by refusing to violate your own in service to their illusions. Number 10, the right to self-preservation. You have been raised to believe that walking away makes you weak, that setting boundaries makes you cruel, that protecting your energy makes you selfish. These are the lies told by people who profit from your unlimited availability for their emotional dumping, their endless drama, and their need to process their chaos through your peace. I am here to tell you that self-preservation is not just a right, it is a responsibility. A responsibility to yourself, to your purpose, and to the people who genuinely deserve access to your best self. The most successful and peaceful people throughout history have been masters of discernment when it comes to relationships. They understood that their time, energy, and emotional resources were finite, precious commodities that should be invested wisely rather than squandered on people who had no intention of honoring what was offered to them. They knew that saying yes to everyone meant saying no to the people and purposes that truly mattered. There is no nobility in allowing yourself to be drained by people who mistake your kindness for weakness, your patience for stupidity, your willingness to listen for an obligation to solve their problems. There is no virtue in remaining in relationships that consistently diminish your peace, clarity, and joy. There is no moral high ground in sacrificing your mental health on the altar of other people's comfort with dysfunction. Picture a garden where the gardener allows weeds to grow freely among the flowers, because removing them might seem harsh or judgmental. The weeds do not become flowers through tolerance and acceptance. Instead, they choke out the beautiful plants, steal nutrients meant for growth and beauty, and eventually transform the entire garden into a patch of worthless scrub. The wise gardener knows that preservation of beauty sometimes requires the removal of what threatens it, not out of hatred for the weeds, but out of love for the flowers. I remember a woman in my kingdom who was known for her generous spirit and willingness to help anyone in need. Over time, she attracted people who had no interest in solving their problems, only in having someone listen to their complaints. They would consume hours of her time with the same stories, the same excuses, the same dramatic crises that they had no intention of resolving. She began to notice that she had no energy left for her own family, her own dreams, or her own growth. When she finally began setting boundaries with these energy vampires, they accused her of becoming selfish and cold. But what actually happened was that she became available again for relationships that gave as much as they took, conversations that led to solutions rather than endless circular processing, and people who honored her time rather than consuming it thoughtlessly. This is your moment of choosing. You can continue believing that you owe unlimited access to your emotional resources to anyone who demands it, or you can recognize that protecting your peace is protecting your ability to contribute meaningfully to the world. Every minute you spend trying to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you Is a minute stolen from relationships that could flourish with much less effort? The practice of wise self-preservation begins with this question. Does this relationship add to my life or subtract from it? Does this person inspire me to be better or constantly make me feel like I am not enough? Do they approach me with curiosity and respect, or with judgment and demands? Do they honor my boundaries, or do they treat my boundaries as obstacles to be overcome? When you discover that someone consistently subtracts more than they add, requires more energy than they contribute, and treats your well-being as less important than their need to be right or comfortable or entertained, you have not just the right but the obligation to limit their access to your life. This is not cruelty, this is wisdom. This is not abandonment, this is discernment. This is not selfishness, this is self-respect. You cannot preserve what you do not protect, and you cannot protect what you do not value enough to defend. Number 11, valuing individual truth. You have spent your life seeking approval from people whose approval would diminish you, trying to fit into spaces that were never meant to contain your full magnificence, and explaining yourself to individuals who mistake your uniqueness for defiance. The time has come to understand that your truth is not subject to popular vote, your worth is not determined by consensus, and your authenticity is not required to make sense to people who have chosen to live inauthentic lives. In all my years of studying human nature, I have discovered that the people who demand the most explanations for your choices are usually those who are most afraid to examine their own. They attack your authenticity because it highlights their pretense. They question your boundaries because they have none. They criticize your standards because meeting them would require effort they are unwilling to make. Your commitment to living according to your own inner compass threatens their commitment to living according to external expectations and social pressures. The mature soul learns to distinguish between relationships that celebrate their truth and relationships that merely tolerate it. The difference is profound and life-changing. When someone celebrates your truth, they are curious about your perspective. They learn from your experiences. They grow through contact with your authenticity. When someone merely tolerates your truth, they endure your presence while waiting for you to become someone else, someone more convenient, someone who requires less of them intellectually, emotionally, or spiritually. Consider the difference between a musician playing for an audience that appreciates their artistry and one performing for people who wish they played different music entirely. The first audience receives the gift the musician has to offer and allows that gift to touch and transform them. The second audience sits in judgment, comparing the performance to their preferences rather than opening themselves to the beauty that is actually present. The musician's skill is the same in both situations, but the quality of the exchange is entirely different. There was a brilliant teacher in my court who possessed knowledge that could have benefited many students, but he refused to teach anyone who came to him seeking to have their existing beliefs confirmed rather than expanded. He would often say, "I am not here to make you more comfortable with what you already think you know. I am here to show you what you have never thought to question." Many people left his classes angry, feeling that he was arrogant or difficult. But the students who remained discovered wisdom they could not have imagined when they arrived. The teacher had learned that his truth was too valuable to waste on people who wanted to remain unchanged by contact with it. This is the revolution that must happen within you. You must stop trying to make your truth palatable to people who prefer lies. You must stop diluting your insights to make them acceptable to people who are committed to staying ignorant. You must stop explaining your growth to people who are invested in keeping you small. The practice of honoring your individual truth requires courage that most people never develop. It means being willing to be misunderstood by the majority in order to be genuinely understood by the few who matter. It means choosing loneliness over false connection, silence over meaningless chatter, authenticity over acceptance. When you stop explaining yourself to people who have no capacity to understand the journey you have taken to become who you are, You create space for relationships with people who recognize and honor that journey. When you stop defending your choices to people who made different choices and need you to be wrong in order to feel right about their own lives, you attract people who are secure enough in their own path to celebrate yours. The freedom you seek will never come from getting everyone to understand you. It will come from understanding yourself so completely that their misunderstanding becomes irrelevant. It will come from valuing your own truth so deeply that you no longer need external validation to know it is worth living. Your individual truth is not a problem to be solved or a position to be defended. It is a gift to be lived, a light to be shown, a song to be sung, regardless of who can hear the music. You are standing at the edge of a great transformation, where the old version of yourself, who desperately sought understanding from every person you encountered, begins to fade away. In its place rises someone who moves through the world with the quiet confidence of those who know their own worth, without needing constant confirmation from others. Picture the ancient oak tree that has weathered countless storms. It does not bend and sway trying to please every wind that blows through its branches. It does not explain to the hurricane why it chooses to remain rooted. It simply stands, deep and unmovable, letting the storms exhaust themselves against its strength. This is who you are becoming. The people who have demanded endless explanations from you will initially be confused by this new version of yourself. They will test your resolve, escalate their demands, and perhaps even accuse you of changing in ways they find threatening. This is not evidence that you are doing anything wrong. This is confirmation that you are finally doing something right. Your silence will become a mirror that reflects back to them the quality of their own hearts. Those who approach you with genuine respect will find in your quietness a depth worth exploring. Those who approach you with manipulation and control will find in your silence a wall they cannot climb or break through. As you continue walking this path of discernment, you will discover that the energy you once scattered trying to convince the unconvincible now flows toward relationships and purposes that actually matter. You will attract people who celebrate your truth rather than merely tolerate it. If this journey toward authentic power resonates with the deepest part of your soul, if you recognize yourself in these words and feel ready to explore what lies beyond the need for external validation, then you belong with those who choose wisdom over approval. The person you are becoming has always existed within you, waiting for permission to stop explaining and start simply being.